Well, hey, welcome everybody. It's who's viewing today's production. We're here at iFinance Mortgage headquarters here in Irvine. Super excited today. Chris Rubio is back with us. I'll let him tell you where he's on his way with them shades. And we're super happy to have Dan here with us. Dan is the CEO and owner of Modern Trust. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that and why it's so important to have a living trust and make sure your estate planning is done correctly. So, hey guys, thank you so much for joining us here today. Really excited to have you.
Good to be here, John.
Thanks for having us.
You know, we were talking a little bit earlier about, it's actually appalling to me that people that we talk to, they either have no idea what an estate plan is or what a trust is or what it does to protect families. Are you seeing that in your everyday encounters with people? They have no idea or no clue?
Yeah, definitely. I think, when people hear the word estate planning, I think sometimes they think it means they have to have a huge estate. The palm tree lined drive and the Rolls Royce in the driveway. And the truth is, an estate is whatever you own. Maybe it's your Prius and your condominium and your Chihuahua. I mean, that could be your whole estate. But even that small of an estate could go through probate if the person passes away. And if an estate goes through probate, that's 2 to 3 years sometimes. If it gets contested, It could be several years. The cost of probate could be up to 6% or even 8 or 10% of the gross value of the whole estate. And that money's going out to lawyers, it's going to courts, it's going to bonds and commissions and appraisals and publication. Probate's just a big waste of time and money for everyone. And
but
people
Dan,
don't realize that.
You mentioned probate, but I have a will. I thought a will would protect me from all of that stuff. That's what I've been hearing from some of our clients. Is that not enough?
Well, John, you're probably too young to have a will or a trust. Young, healthy, you live forever. Why on earth do you have a will? No. I mean, actually, it's good. Everybody should at least have a will. But the truth is, in the state of California, if a person's estate is over $184,500 in gross value, the will has to go through the public probate court system also. So it's a will is easy to get and it's better than nothing, but in the end, it turns out to be pretty expensive when it goes through court.
Interesting. And my bad. I failed to kind of talk a little bit about how long you've been in this business, the estate planning business. Maybe you can share a little bit, and then Chris, we'll come back to you too, and just see how long you've also been in the real estate business and also in the legal field as well.
I've been an estate planning attorney for about 34 years now.
Wow.
And I've always focused on it. I started law school, and I had a great professor that was our instructor for estates and trusts, and he worked on the estate plan for Dan Marino and some other athletes, and I thought, that sounds kind of cool.
Yeah.
Constructive. I'm not representing criminals. Well, at least most of my clients are not criminals. And a way to save people time and money. And so even in law school, I knew I wanted to be an estate planning attorney, and I have a brother and a brother-in-law that are also in the field. So it was kind of a shoe-in for me, and I just started doing that right out the gate.
That's exciting. That's amazing, being able to start early and continue helping people. How about you, Chris? Tell us a little bit about you and those cool shades.
Yeah, I'm headed to Vegas, so I'm getting prepared, the calm before the storm. But I've been in real estate, I would say, 6 as an active broker, 2 years working in corporate management for a big international luxury brand real estate firm. And so, I just fell in love with real estate. I love, you get to do everything, right? It's the finance side, the contract side, the people, the product, the properties, right? Everything I love about it. So it's always entertaining. It's never a dull moment. How Dan and I met was actually because my family, I'm actually still going through this probate process. And honestly, the only cool thing about the probate process, in my opinion, is I have the same judge as Britney Spears and as her conservatorship in the show, right? Dan, what's her?
That's Judge Brenda Penny in
wow.
the probate department downtown Los Angeles.
Yeah. So it's the only cool thing. And so Dan and his team, they're handling that personally for me. And I will tell you, during COVID, unfortunately, I had some clients that were passing away as well. And it was really sad. And it was like a 30-year-old Marine who just had a baby. We've seen other clients who are a little older. And then there's all these situations that were happening. One was with like a power of attorney. I have a power of attorney. Can I sell the house?
Oh.
And it was like, no, you can't. We gotta flush that through because there's no trust, right? So that took like 1 to 2 years. So like you have a real estate transaction, the client who's probably going to be the heir or administrator,
right.
They think they can do these things and they couldn't. So it had to go through the court system. So anyways, Dan and his team have represented those clients as well. And the thing for me was like, it was very personal. Like,
sure.
Like, does this really have to happen, right? When we talk about saving time and money, I mean, that's always key, but it was like, this is just crazy. Even my own, there's like family members like coming out of the woodwork and like it's,
I want a piece.
Literally.
It's how it is. And no judgments on that, but
sure.
it's difficult. And it's also the emotional side. So like I met with another client actually here in Irvine, and we were talking, and she already had her trust, but it was like, hey, when was the last time it was updated? Because you got some properties, we're moving some things around. And for me, like now that I have that knowledge and working closely with Dan and with Modern Trust, that was one thing that just really excited me to partner at a different level. It was just not, hey, go see a lawyer. It was like, hey, like I know a little bit about this. Obviously, I'm not an attorney, but I worked closely with Dan and my clients and his team. And in that process, now with Modern Trust, it was so easy to set up. I'm like, oh my God, I don't have to pay like $10,000 to go see an attorney. I don't have to spend 2 hours, right? I'm busy. It's like, this is a living trust. You can get this thing done in like 15 minutes, swear, no joke. It was like, put my property in, put a few bank accounts in, right? It was like, are you kidding me? Like this would have saved my grandfather 2 years, headaches, people fighting, and we're spending tons of money.
I'm sure.
It's crazy. You got bonds, and like people are like getting conservatorship over people like of my aunt. It's like non-family members. It's crazy.
Even the beneficiaries need their own lawyers to finish
That's right.
the probate and the other estate.
Yeah.
So it's gotten complicated.
Sorry to hear
yeah.
that.
So anyways, it's a very like passion of mine, and I'm really grateful for Dan and not only handling our clients and my own, but also educating me. And so now every client, every time in real estate, do you have this set up? And if not, hey, it's a low price. We can get it done in 15 minutes. If you want to come to the office, cool. It's it's backed by somebody who's been in the game, who's an expert at this. So don't worry about it, right? But it's kind of that. It's more of a personal thing now. So that's kind of why I wanted to bring Dan here and mix. And I know that we do mortgages and we're doing the real estate sales, and it's just like, why aren't we advocating this more in the process?
You know what? That's really good, because when you think about it, here we are helping on our side, on the mortgage side, we're helping families get the property they want. Working with you, you're bringing clients to us. We get them pre-approved. Next thing you know, they're ready to go shop, and you find them their dream home. Now we're in the escrow process. We're asking them, how do you want to take title of your property? A light bulb should go off, and now it will, even more so. Well, wait a minute. What's the proper way to take title? Do you have a living trust already? If you don't, let's get that taken care of. Let's talk about that for a second. Is that's something that we could actually do during this process? They don't have to wait until after the loan closes or escrow closes?
Yeah, John, I think it's beneficial if the trust is set up before the escrow closes. Because otherwise they close escrow, and if they take title as joint tenants or tenants in common, even community property, escrow closes, the loan closes, and then immediately after that, if they get their trust done to avoid probate, they have to do another deed, create another transfer deed, get it recorded, pay the recording fee to put it into the trust. Whereas, as you suggested, when you talk about title, a bell goes off, instantly they should think, do I have my living trust? Let's get it set up before we close escrow. And then when escrow closes, title can go right into the trust immediately. It'll save time and money, and they don't have to record again.
Interesting.
That discussion just has to take place, I think, and if it did, clients would be grateful and they'd probably appreciate the added value.
And John, what we found too, Dan and I kind of going through this process is that, we looked at titles paperwork, so if you're going through a transaction, it'll tell you the different forms of how to hold title.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it says if you want to own an LLC or put it in a living trust, talk to the escrow officer. Well, no offense, and there's a lot of great escrow officers, a lot of great brokers as ourselves and attorneys, but a lot of people just don't know about this.
Right.
And so like the escrow officer is going to be like, I don't really know, talk to this person. And they're like, so like it's kind of this like weird phenomenon that nobody knows about anything. So one of the things that Dan created, which was very helpful for my clients, is actually a title sheet. So here are the forms of hold title, and then here are the benefits of a living trust.
Fantastic.
There you go. Now, I know the lenders in some cases have said, like, hey, we don't want you to record in the trust. So we've heard that in some cases. And one of the things that we did is because it's already an escrow, you close, however, let's say we record as joint tenants. You record, but right behind it, and this is what Dan's team had advised, you're submitting that package to the county or the county recorder anyways, but you're packaging the second grant deed. Escrow already has your information. Right. You're already doing the signing. So this was a live transaction that we just sold, and we told the buyers, and they got it all done. Boop, boop. Both of them got recorded, double recording. I mean, one, and then they just turned to paper, and here's the second one. So it is very easy to do, and it's one of those things, if you don't do it in the process, I feel that like you're just going to get overwhelmed with like moving, right? I got to move. You're going to put it aside.
And you forget about it.
Yeah.
Until I get around to it, right? Those little signs. Yeah. So you mentioned, is that doing that second deed, like right behind it, having the same package, is that kind of an accommodation? I've heard that term before, where some title and escrow companies will do what's called an accommodation during that process, where they're not going to necessarily charge an extra fee. Even if they did, it's an extra gesture instead of doing, as you mentioned, after the fact, which they may forget about. So I think, as you suggest, that's a beautiful way to do it. And now that adds knowledge to us on the lending side to say, hey, do you have your... So hopefully they're being asked right up front on the real estate side, those questions. Comes to us, we're going to ask that same question. There should be no reason why this client, these borrowers, don't understand or don't know about a living trust or estate planning.
I think the fallback for decades has been, how do you want to take title? And the common discussion is, do you want to be a joint tenant or tenant in common, husband and wife if you're married, community property? And that's where it stops. Yep. Because they think that a trust is something much more complicated, that should be done later, I got to see a lawyer. And so you get stuck on joint tenancy, tenants in common, and all of those things go through probate. When the last joint tenant dies, it goes through probate too. So joint tenancy doesn't even avoid probate. Mm-hmm. But if the discussion up front starts to include, do you want to be a joint tenant in common, or wouldn't it be better to have your living trust done, and then you can hold title right in the name of the trust from the get-go? If that discussion starts to happen more routinely, I think people will be better served, they'll be happier, and if somebody, God forbid, passes away, they're not going to be stuck in court.
That's great. You just gave us our material, I think, for our next podcast together as well. I think it would be very helpful for the general audience, even ourselves, to understand what's the difference in holding title a certain way. Tenants in common, community property. What's the benefits of doing so either way? So maybe we could talk about that again on a separate podcast. I think that'd be very helpful. So just asking, as we wrap up here, we want to give as much information, kind of short-packed, but make sure that you understand as an audience the value of estate planning, of having a living trust that can be adjusted and changed as you add properties, as life circumstances happen. What a great team you have here in Dan and Chris, and certainly ourselves as we help through the mortgage process. So I couldn't be more thrilled to have both of you here this morning with us. Dan, thank you so much for your many, many years of expertise. Chris, for your friendship, for your expertise too that you bring to the game. And I know you're going to have a good time this weekend. You come back safe. We got a lot of work to do, buddy.
And there'll be no videos out there, so. Thanks, John,
Instagram, all social media is closing down as of today.
Exactly.
Hey, thanks a lot, guys.
Thank
Appreciate
you, John.
it.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you,
Thanks,
John.
Sam.
All right.